Hello, this is Ivlik, and this is my 36th ELO series. Welcome back. Today I'm doing something a lot different. Instead of just talking over my ELO series while I play and commentating like that, I decided to record a few clips and do post-commentary like every other respectable video out there. So I hope you enjoy that a little better. I expect to. Obviously, I have not yet seen the outcome. But yeah. Today I have a topic that I have been brewing, that I've had brewing for a while, and it's a lot about how to get better at Minecraft, or not just at Minecraft, but just at things in general, as are many of the things that I talk about on this channel. It's about the defense mechanisms used by competitive players. In these competitive situations. I kind of started thinking about them. I mean, you see them all over the place. You see people, as they play, they project their discontent with how they're playing onto the server, the game, ping, lag, whatever it is. And whether or not these, claims, these projections have any grounding, which most of the time I would say they don't. But whether or not they do, this does bring up the idea of how these defense mechanisms get in the way of a player trying to improve. I think it goes without saying, it's not a difficult concept to kind of grasp that these defense mechanisms aren't healthy for a player trying to improve. To give himself an out and say, oh well, I'm not playing poorly. This is the game's fault. This is this player I'm playing. He's playing like a bitch, or displacing the frustration sometimes in their own play with other things. And again, that's not always the case. Sometimes truly there is just a problem with the game. I mean, but I think it's a much healthier mentality to approach the game trying to improve or just trying to play well at all. Just immediately going to, if something goes wrong, immediately blaming yourself. I mean, for the most part, it's an individual game. Even in the team game modes, Minecraft has a ton of it taxes individual skill a lot more than some other games might. And even in that team scenario, if the player goes in thinking that he's doing things wrong, that is how to improve. If you go in thinking, of course, I mean, again, this is not a difficult concept. This is pretty widely understood that if you go in thinking you are flawless, you're playing well. If it's a team game mode, then your teammates are playing poorly. If it's an individual game mode like Arena, then things around you aren't going well. It couldn't be your play style. That is obviously not a strong mentality to be playing anything, much less a competitive game. And if you take anything away from this video, which will be a very elongated version of exactly what I just told you, take that when you enter a game, you should, if something goes wrong, immediately look to how your play could be getting better. Even if they're truly, the server truly did lag, or your teammates really aren't playing badly, or the guy you're playing just somehow is unbelievably good and you just don't know what to do. Just look at your play style. That is the healthiest way to do it. Because if you accept that the things around you aren't working well, then you can't improve that. You have no control over that, and you lose. You lose once, and you can't do anything about it. But if you go in thinking that your playstyle can improve, even though it might be something minuscule, if you focus and concentrate on improving your playstyle, you'll improve overall in long term, and I think in short term, in the immediate game. But I'll follow through on my promise, and I'll make it much more complicated than that. I think one of the biggest problems in competitive games, in terms of this defense mechanism thing, is something called selective memory, which is when a player, they think back to the pinnacle of their playing. They think back to maybe a specific situation or a couple situations where they were playing very well, or whatever they were doing, they were winning. And they think back to what they were doing, and they try to reiterate that over and over and over. They assume that that is their average. Nothing around them, everything around them must be going badly because they think, man, I can play at that level. I've done it before. I've done it when I've done it in perfect situations, yes, but that's what people don't see. They don't see that the situation around them was not only neutral, but perhaps very tilted in their favor. Maybe the guy they were playing was just utter garbage. Maybe their teammates were really doing very well, and it just so happened that they, on their screen, saw a great outcome from their own playing. And while it still takes, the skill to follow through on that kind of thing, obviously that is not that player's average level. That is not what that player should be doing, because they can't always recreate that, of course. They can't always have a perfect situation. A consistent player needs to be able to play in situations like that when things are going right, and obviously a neutral situation needs to be able to still work out of that. The consistent player not only plays with the consistent poker player not only plays with a good deck of hands, a good draw, whatever. They also they bluff their way out of bad deals. I guess that's the idea here. And when you selectively remember that, you were playing at your pinnacle, you kind of remember that just nothing seemed different, really. Nothing seemed like it was overly tilted in your favor. Nothing seemed like you shouldn't be playing that way right now, again, and forever. But in reality, that's not your standard play. You can't consistently play like that. So you have to kind of understand that maybe what you're playing right now is your average. And to work towards that, that what you're remembering as the pinnacle of your play, you have to break down these defense mechanisms, that being one of them. You have to assume when you're playing well, it's pretty terrible, but you have to assume when you're playing well that it's not by your own merit. It's something else went right, and you couldn't do this again. And you have to keep assuming that until you consistently produce these effects over and over and over. Until you can consistently, not only out of a good situation, but out of a neutral or even a bad situation, pull these good moments. And that becomes your average play, your average level of play. Now, as much as I don't condone falling back on these defense mechanisms to help yourself cope with the fact that you might not be the best player on the planet, it's hard to ignore that they are there for a reason. In real life and in competitive games, if you break them down entirely, you stop projecting your frustration with your own play onto other players or the game itself, and you honestly, truly, fully project it only towards yourself, it's depressing. You think you're a much worse player than maybe you are, or maybe you're much more accurate about what kind of player you are, and that sucks. You can't lean back on, oh, I'm breaking down my defense mechanisms, and just say, oh, well, okay, I won't lie, there's nothing wrong with the server, there's nothing wrong with the game, that guy's just better than me. But you can't accept that. It's a balancing act. You can't accept just coming to this conclusion that this guy is better than me and there's nothing I can do about that. Minecraft is random enough that you should try to capitalize on a good scenario, even against someone that is clearly better than you. I think what you have to do is you capitalize on a scenario where you're dealt a good a deal, a good pair of cards, and you just have to play well. Where you might not have to play as well as the other guy, maybe he's better than you. If he is better than you enough, this analogy is quickly falling apart. What I'm trying to say is that as much as you have to break down these defense mechanisms, you can't just ignore the fact that you can improve. That pinnacle play that I was just talking about is still achievable. Yeah, maybe you got given a good scenario of random variables in the past, but you can still work towards that set of, or just that caliber of play. And I think that's one of the most important things. Although these defense mechanisms don't particularly help you, if you really look at them, obviously you don't want to just be casting your frustration with your own play on the guy you're playing. Just just cuss him out. Obviously not a healthy habit, but at the same time, you can't ignore that they're there for a reason. In this quest to break down all your defense mechanisms, you can't just. This is what drives people to quit. Is when they start seeing that, wow, I'm really not as good as I thought. And I think that's very important to understand and to remember in doing that. So that's really all. I said I would make these shorter for the post commentary. I think that'll be a little more engaging. The topics will be a little less spread out. But in being more concise, they will also be just much more filled with information and opinions. And I hope that's better. I think that's better. I'm not stuck counting my block placement on Skywars. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you continue to enjoy. And I've been Hivlik. Thank you very much.